So in this video, I'm going to review 3 ads from outdoor living contractors and explain to you the mistakes that they're making, how some of their ads are probably just generating them price shoppers, tire kickers, and leads that aren't actually converting into high-end outdoor living sales. And I'm also going to make changes to them live so that you can see what I would do to improve these ads and ultimately generate the right leads so that the person in question would be able to actually close more high-end projects, get the right leads, etc. And I'm going to explain my thinking. I'm going to show you the entire process so that you can implement some of this stuff into your own ads as well. So I'm just going to get right into it. I have an ad in front of me here that I pulled from the Facebook ads library. Now, I won't be including any images or videos or anything like that because that usually exposes exactly what business it is. And I will probably be pretty mean and they wouldn't like that. And so just to protect the business, I'm going to just wipe out like company name and everything like that. So let's get into this first ad. And this is basically just copy and paste it. I haven't made any changes to this and we're just going to go through it. So beginning with the first ad right here. So this was a company in California and what they are saying in their ad is this: transform your backyard into a dream oasis, upgrade your outdoor living with company name, custom built patios, pergolas and covers designed for style, shade and comfort, free estimates, high quality materials, fast and professional installation. Enjoy more sunshine your way. Message us today for a quote. So this is basically the standard sort of AI ChatGPT generated Facebook ad. And there's plenty of problems here. So first problem is this first line. So this is something that sort of ChatGPT generates when you tell it to give you a Facebook ad, is that it gives you these sort of just shouting like claims, and it's usually very vague and very generic and it sounds very pitchy. So transform your backyard into a dream oasis. How many times have we heard dream oasis? A lot of times. And so when people hear the same claims, the same generic stuff over and over again, they ultimately become blind to it. This is something that one of my mentors actually called a yes, yes sentence. People read something and they go like, yes, 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 like whatever. It has no impact on them. And again, it goes straight into what feels like an actual pitch. And so the thing is that people, they like to buy things, but they hate being sold to. Okay? And this immediately feels like an actual pitch, just like a sell, right? And so I don't imagine that a lot of people are consuming after just seeing this line, because it just sounds like the same generic stuff as almost every other ad. But let's keep going. Upgrade your outdoor living with company name. So when people are thinking about their backyard and what they want to do with it, their problem, they're not thinking in their head, I want to upgrade my outdoor living. They may say that on social media sometimes, maybe on Facebook or in a forum or something like that, I'm looking to upgrade my outdoor living, but that's not actually what they want. It's a very vague, generic claim that ultimately has no impact at all. Because what people don't want is some outdoor living space. They want to have a space where the family gathers, where people are giving them compliments and they feel high status. They want a place that they can create memories in, etc. And honestly, you can even go much deeper than that. It sort of depends on the profile that you want to attract, the ideal client, right? But again, it's one generic claim after the other. And with company name, and so one thing that you'll also notice is that the ad just immediately goes into the actual pitch, right? So it's like, here's our services. But the thing is that no one really gives a shit about your services or like your company. And I don't mean that in a mean way, right? But you can relate to this. I know you can, because I know that you probably get tons of cold emails, messages. You see a bunch of ads all the time, right? And they all say, hey, we are this company and we do, I don't know, Facebook ads, and we do marketing for outdoor living contractors. And you're like, okay, I don't care. That's what you're saying in your head, right? You don't care. You only care about yourself. Again, not in a mean way. I'm speaking like strictly about advertising here. Like when people are trying to give you a sales message, you don't care about the person behind the sales message. You care about what they can potentially do for you. But if they begin just talking about themselves and their services, they never even earn your attention or consumption for them to potentially explain what they can actually do for you. Okay? And it's the same thing here. It's like, we are a company and we do these services. Okay, but the customer doesn't actually care. Like, you haven't actually built any type of connection with them. You haven't explained their problem, who this is for, and you haven't actually earned the consumption or the attention to even give a pitch, right? Because again, I mean, you probably lost their attention here, but if you didn't lose their attention here, you'll most likely lose it here. Not only because the business here is talking about themselves, but also because what they're listing out here is just a list of services, right? There's no actual value proposition here. It's like, yeah, we do patios, pergolas, and stuff like that. It's like, okay, but 100 other companies do the exact same thing, right? They're saying the exact same thing in their ads. And again, people don't care about custom built patios. That's a service. They care about what that will actually do for them, what problem it actually solves. But we haven't actually described the problem. And we're not describing how this solves the problem and gives them what they want, right? So, keeping it going, free estimates, high quality materials, fast and professional installation. Again, just generic stuff that doesn't mean anything to the homeowner. Everyone says this, high quality materials. I mean, they can't even actually like register what that really means. And sure, you may mention this, but if you're going to mention it, then explain how that's beneficial for the customer. Do they fear that you're going to build something and in 1 year the patios are going to crack, they're going to shift or whatever? Okay, then we can now position the high quality materials as a solution to that, or like handle that fear with this claim and say, yeah, we use high quality materials so that your patio will last 20 years and not crack or shift after, I don't know, a year or so, right? Now we turned it into an actual benefit. But high quality materials in of itself just means nothing. And again, like fast professional installation, everyone says this, everyone says professional installation. I mean, I hope you do professional, installation, right? But it doesn't actually mean anything. It goes back to the yes, yes sentence. Like, people say this all the time. So imagine you go into like a bank or something, and I think this is such a great example. And the bank, says, or maybe in their marketing, they say, we care about you. It's like, okay, yeah, sure you do, right? It's like, it doesn't mean anything, right? And fast installation, well, I mean, how fast? Everyone can claim fast installation, but can you actually show me what fast means? Are you going to build me a patio in under like 4 weeks? And can you stick to that? That's way more compelling than just say fast, because a lot of the times also these homeowners, they don't really have a conception of what fast or slow is, right? They may say they want a fast installation, but is that, a week or 4 weeks? Maybe they believe that a fast installation is like 2 days, but maybe that's actually like impossible, right? So when you say fast installation, they could also have false expectations. And one problem also with this ad is that the objective is send a message here. This will really result in just a lot of bad leads. Send message campaigns is like the lowest friction type of campaign you can run, and you will get very low quality traffic. If you do message campaigns, your advertising will actually be cheaper than in comparison to sending people to maybe a landing page or whatever. And that's because Facebook knows that that traffic is actually just way lower quality than other type of traffic or other objectives. And people are not filling in, for example, their phone number. They're not they're not answering exactly what type of project they're looking to build. Like, you can't actually qualify them beforehand. You'll just get a lot of messages from people whose behavior is to just send messages. So even if the ad copy, the body text here was decent, you'll most likely still get horrible leads if this is your objective. So the objective, if you are trying to get leads, if you're trying to actually close projects, it should just always be leads, like getting people to give their contact information and tell you more about what they're actually looking to build and their intent. Anything other than that would just be a complete waste of time and money. And their headline was their just company name, which again doesn't explain how this is beneficial for me. It's just the company name, but no one cares about that. So the key changes that I would make is we need to actually talk about the customer. So we need to talk about the actual homeowner, not you. And we need to actually answer in the ad what problem we're solving. We need to have a clear value proposition. We need to add specificity to the claims and not just say upgrade your outdoor living. We need to change the objective to something that's not send message, but probably generate leads, get people to actually, for example, fill out a form. And the headline needs to be benefit oriented. We always just need to keep in mind that people only care about themselves, right? So I'm just going to make some changes to this ad and then show you the end result. So I have redone the whole ad. I basically had to write an ad from scratch to just change all of it. And this company was in Southern California, right? And from my understanding, I had to do a little bit of research on the market, but it gets very hot there, especially during the summer. And so that's something that I wanted to play into. Now, this ad isn't perfect, right? I'm probably going to read this and we're going to notice some minor mistakes, but it's basically 90% there. And if the company ran this, it will probably crush. So let's get into it. So Southern California heat doesn't ask for permission. It just shows up. 108 degrees in the shade, UV index off the charts. So somewhere between June and October, your backyard becomes a place nobody wants to be in. And even if you tried, prolonged heat exposure above 103 degrees Fahrenheit can cause heat exhaustion in under 20 minutes, whether in kids, elderly people, or parents, or healthy adults. And maybe you looked into redoing your backyard to make it actually usable in the summer. You called some contractors, but they either never showed up or they gave you a quote and then just disappeared. And honestly, you're definitely not alone. And that's why these amount of homeowners in Southern California came to us, because we're building them outdoor spaces specifically designed for this climate with heat resistant paver patios that stay cool so you, your family, and your pets don't burn your feet, and a customized pergola that provides shade and cooling, dropping ambient temperature by 10 to 15 degrees. You can actually have dinners and gatherings outside without burning up. And guess what? We built all of it in just 8 weeks or less, or you get a $2,000 discount. To get your estimate, simply click the link below. You fill out your information and then we'll get back to you. So, I mean, there's some minor improvements that I can do, like somewhere around here. It gets very sort of wordy and this sentence doesn't really like hit that much. The transition into it isn't great. But anyway, why do I think this works just far better? So one of the things that we're doing is that we're actually digging into a problem, right? That the California homeowners can recognize, right? And so it gets very hot, and that makes the backyard pretty much unusable, right? Nobody wants to be in it. And hey, even if you've tried, there's this bad thing that can happen. So it's like a little bit of fear, right? And this is something that I just sort of pulled up like from Google, right? So again, this is just an example. If I was actually writing ads for this business, I would do my due diligence a little bit more, right? But I wanted to just give you an example. So we're digging into the problem, and then, hey, there's some fear here. And one thing that we're trying to also do is really like amplify the problem, because sometimes people may feel like some symptoms or some problem, like they don't like their backyard and it gets really hot, but sometimes we have to actually amplify the problem to get people to take action, because sometimes they're not actually aware of how bad the problem can be. So I'll actually give you an example. So 2 years back, I was going to travel to South Africa, right? I'm Swedish. And in order to travel there, you basically had to get certain like vaccinations for like hepatitis and shit like that, right? And I was like, I mean, do I really need that? It's kind of like, you know, do I actually really need that? And then I did some research. I was like, yes, you do need that. And that became sort of a problem for me, right? Now I had a problem. I was like, okay, I need some type of vaccinations, whatever, okay? But then I did some more research, and I realized that the sort of like diseases or whatever that my body, or like the type of bacteria that my body isn't used to, obviously I'm prone to that stuff. And I realized if I catched one of those things, I can't remember the exact consequences, but it would be really bad, right? And I was like, okay, now I actually need to get these fucking vaccinations or whatever, right? And so I realized that I had a problem, but it wasn't actually that urgent or painful, right? And then I did a little bit more research, and it's like, oh, okay, I actually really need these, right? So it became more urgent, right? And so that's basically what we're doing here. We're making the problem a little bit more urgent, right? So that people take action. And maybe you've looked into redoing your backyard to make it actually usable in the summer. And honestly, this is more about getting people who are already sort of looking into hiring a contractor. They've done some research before, because I could just say all of this, for example, and this is mainly about targeting people who are aware that they have a problem with the heat, their backyard and stuff, but they may not be actively looking for a contractor. And although you can convert those people, it's going to be a little bit of a longer process and a little bit more difficult, because they're not actually sort of in that research phase. They're not as educated as, for example, people who are already starting to do some research. They're not as high intent, if that makes sense. So this is really to resonate, make people who are already looking into like a contractor resonate with it more, right? So that we get people who have a little bit higher intent. Like, you could convert the people who aren't yet actively looking, but it's going to just be a little bit more difficult, simply because they're not as educated as the people who are already looking for a contractor. Because if they're already looking, they're looking for a solution, right? Which means that they're easier to convert. And and then we're obviously talking about like the problem that they probably had with contractors, right? And honestly, you're definitely not alone. And that's why these amount of homeowners came to us. So a little bit of social proof there. And we're also saying like, hey, I mean, your neighbors came to us, right? Why wouldn't you? So it's the standard like social proof sort of sheep herding tactic. People like to do what other people are already doing. So it would make sense in their mind, if everyone else in their area is going to this specific company, then they should as well, right? That's the conclusion that they draw, because we're building them outdoor spaces specifically designed for this climate. So now we're actually transitioning into the solution, and notice that it's an actual solution, right? We're not just offering services, we're offering solutions to a problem, because that's what people buy. People buy solutions to a problem. And so then the services become a little bit more like tailored. So we're building outdoor spaces specifically for this climate with like heat resistant paver patios that stay cool so you don't burn your feet or whatever. Any customized pergola that provides shade and cooling, dropping temperature by this much. And so now we're getting into the services, but we're tailoring the benefits to the specific situation and the problem, right? There's plenty of things that you could say about paver patios, right? There's plenty of like benefits or whatever that you can draw from it, but we want to draw the specific ones that are most relevant for the situation. And you can have, dinners and gatherings outside without burning up, right? And guess what? We build it all in just 8 weeks, or you get a $2,000 discount. So this will do a lot of heavy lifting. It's an actual value proposition. It's an actual like clear offer. We'll do this for you in just 8 weeks or less, or you get a $2,000 discount. Very hard to say no to when most contractors just say, hey, we'll, build you some paver patios or, maybe a pergola, and we do all of this type of stuff. Just inquire, right? This is way more desirable, way clearer value proposition. And to get your estimate, simply click the link below, fill out your information, and then we'll get back to you. Now, you may have some objections to this, and the reason I have to do this, especially when we run ads, is because we're running ads to a cold audience, right? People who don't actually know us. So if you get, for example, referrals, or you rely mostly overall on warm traffic to get clients, then you have never probably had the need to say something like this. You never had the need to have a risk reversal or have an actual clear value proposition, and that's because you are selling specifically to warm traffic who already trust and know you, because some neighbor recommended you, or they maybe even sat under the pergola that you built or the backyard that you built, or they followed you for 3 months. It's like they've already like decided to go with you, right? You don't actually need some super clear like good offer. They're already sold. But that's warm traffic. Cold traffic, they have none of those attributes, or attributes if that's the right word, but they don't trust you, they don't know you. And so if you sound like everyone else in their feed, then there's no reason for them to actually go with you, besides if you are cheaper, right? And who wants to compete on price? I personally don't. And that's why I don't say to people, hey, I'll do your Facebook ads, right? It's like, okay, I don't care. So we have a clear value proposition in order to consistently and predictably convert actual strangers into customers. And if you can do that, then you'll never struggle to sell, because you can just take a stranger and turn them into a customer. And to get your estimate, fill out your information. This call to action could be a little bit more clear. Just have something more attractive to it. Maybe it's like a free estimate or consultation. But again, this is just an example ad. If I were writing ads specifically for this business, like I'm working with this business, then I would do changes to this to make it something more specific, right? So hopefully that makes sense. Now that is just the first ad. We're going to review some more, but I'm not going to write a new ad for those, but there are some things that are worth covering in those ads that I want to talk to you about. So let's get into the second one right here. So the second ad goes like this. And this is clearly from an agency, a marketing agency. And I'm going to go through it again and just point out the big mistakes I think that they're making. So I know 5,997 for a deck or patio. That's crazy. Decks are like 20K usually, right? Sort of, but not really. It has to do with size, the difficulty, and the materials. Thing is, there's a fair price, and there's pricing that's so insanely ridiculous that I don't know how these decking contractors sleep at night. My name is blah blah blah. Here's how I run my business. I do amazing work. I don't settle for anything less. No corner cutting, no junky materials. I only work with my crews, but there's more. Because I'm a simple company that I run really well, I don't have a ton of overhead, unlike the big bloated companies who have fancy offices, TV commercials, and billboards. Guess it pays for all that. Yep, that's not how I roll. So I can do something. Okay, honestly, that's enough. So one of the things with this ad is that it's nicely written. If you notice, it sounds like an actual like conversation, like you're talking one-on-one with someone, and that's really good. And that's something that I do here as well. If you notice, is that it sounds like an actual conversation. It doesn't sound like some infomercial or some, you know, ad or whatever. It actually sounds like a person is speaking with you, right? And it's simple and it's clear, it's conversational. And that's how you preferably want your ads to be. But the problem here is not really an ad copy problem. The problem here is how this agency is now positioning this business. So if you notice, the whole angle of this ad, and I've seen this exact ad on like 50 ad accounts. This is just like a copy and paste template. I've seen this ad so many times. And the angle of this is to basically say, hey, the competitors are more expensive. I'm cheap. You should go with me. And what I hate about that is that you can get customers, sure. But what you're actually doing is that you're building the belief in your customer base and your audience that you are the cheap guy, right? You're just the cheap guy. If they want something cheap, they should go with you. And is that really how you want your customers to see you? That you're just like the cheap guy? And sure, it might be nice, you know, you get some customers, right? But also at this price, like how are your margins going to be? What are they going to look like? It's basically like virtue signaling in an ad. If you ask me, you should compete on actual value, on actually having a good offer, and solving the right problem for the right person, not trying to be, you know, the cheapest guy in town. And yeah, it's just, I hate it. I hate it. Like, even when you generate the customer and you perhaps try to sell something more expensive later, it's sort of too late, because not only do they already see you as the cheap guy, but when you run these type of campaigns and you do these angles, then you will attract the people who just want cheap stuff, right? Who only care about the price rather than actual quality. So you'll struggle to upsell them too on like some more expensive stuff, right? Or other services, which, I mean, you're forced to do if you like build decks and patios for like $6,000, right? I mean, you can't run a business just like selling this. You will have to upsell people, right? But that's going to be difficult when your audience is made out of a bunch of price shopping like people, right? And so I'm not going to make any specific changes to this ad. I'm just talking about the actual big mistake here. Like, don't run ads like this. Okay, so moving into the third ad. So, affordable new pools and remodels for your home. Your dream pool is within reach. Whether you're remodeling your aging pool or building a brand new oasis, we offer affordable options that fit your budget. Our services include cost-saving remodels for aging pools, new pool construction with a choice of upgrades, affordable financing options available. Don't let summer pass you by. Make the most of your backyard with a fully functional pool. Reach out today for more information by clicking below. If you notice, again, we're hitting a lot, or the business, whoever wrote this ad, it looks like an agency, but whoever wrote this ad, again, is hitting a lot on just this affordable angle. It's like, look how cheap we are. We promise we're going to be super cheap, right? And again, you're just going to attract price shoppers. You're going to attract people who are going to push on price, and that's what they care about. Because, I mean, that's your whole angle. Instead of competing on solving the right problem, having a great offer like we did in the beginning, you're going to just have to compete on price. And yeah, same points as the first ad. But if we look at, for example, the first line, again, it's going like immediately into the actual pitch and feels salesy. Now, if someone is like super actively just looking for options, then they might look into this, but also that's a very small portion of the market, and that portion of the market is basically just ready to buy right now, but it would be impossible to actually scale due to how small that portion of the market is. And also because most people are competing for this small portion of the market that are like actively looking to buy now. And it becomes even harder because, again, this ad doesn't have a very clear value proposition. It's just trying to be affordable and not trying to solve a specific problem, or doesn't have a specific offer that separates them from the others. And so really, really, really difficult to scale this ad, probably impossible. And one more thing is that it's trying to do two things at the same time. So it's talking about remodeling, but also about new pools. And so the ad is breaking what in marketing terms is called the rule of one. And the rule of one basically states that you're solving one problem for one person with one solution. Okay? So it should be like one idea per ad. And the reason is because when you have more than one idea, then what happens is that people basically just get confused. And you get this very broad, you try to go broad, but when you go broad, you don't actually attract anyone because your message gets so generic and confusing, right? So what this business should have done is that they should have just had one ad or several that talk about only remodeling, right? And then the other ads only talk about new pools. You don't combine the two. You have them separate, right? Or building, and again, it's also making these sort of generic claims that everyone else is making, like brand new Oasis, and then we offer affordable options that fit your budget, attracts the price shoppers, our services include. And you can probably notice again that the ad is mainly talking just about the business and their services. Here's what we do, here's what we can do for you, here's how affordable we are, right? But again, prospect doesn't care about the business, they care about themselves. If I show you, for example, again with our ad, this is like all of this is just talking about the person reading, right? Here's your problem, here's what you've been doing, etc., right? And now we can begin talking a little bit about ourselves, but even then we are turning each of the things that we offer into an actual benefit to them, right? So it's like, hey, here's who we are, right? We do this, and then we turn it back to the prospect again, right? So here's all the things that we do that will benefit you, right? So having the focus on the person reading and not ourselves, right? And that's basically what this ad is also sort of failing to do. It's not tying it back to the person reading. And the objective here was to get the leads to a website, and I don't remember exactly what it looked like, but it was just a website, and then there's a bunch of buttons everywhere, and it's something like, hey, call or inquire. And the thing about when running ad or the leads, you drive them to attract. And the thing about driving the leads or the people who see your ad to a website is that a website doesn't have any focus. What I mean by that is when they arrive on the website, they will see a bunch of buttons and a bunch of random stuff that is not directly exactly correlated with what they saw in the ad. And so what will happen, or what you risk, is that when the lead arrives on your website, they will see all of these buttons, all of this text, all of this content, and get immediately overwhelmed. They don't know where their eyes should go, and they may scroll slightly and then just click out, or they will start clicking around on the buttons and then not actually go out or go back to what we want them to do, which is inquire, right? They'll click around on some buttons, they'll get distracted by something, and then they'll click out. Or they will just get confused because there's no super clear congruency between the ad and the website. Usually the website is just, the business's way of explaining who they are, etc. They have some buttons and they have some work there, but it's not directly congruent with the actual ad. And so if you were to drive people to a website, it would have to be a landing page where it's a continuation of what they saw in the ad. So if we go to our example, the offer is, we'll build all of this in, 8 weeks. And if we were to drive people to then a landing page where, for example, they may fill out the form, what I would have on the landing page is like a headline that basically restates this and build upon what they read in the ad. And below it would, for example, be information about like the business, maybe testimonials, maybe project work, maybe introducing the team or like the owner, right? Having all of that information, awards, etc. But the point is that when they land on the page, they can immediately see the congruency. They know that they arrived at the right place and they know exactly what to do. But that is often not the case with a website. They just land somewhere, it's a bunch of buttons and a bunch of content everywhere, and they get overwhelmed or they get confused. So hopefully that makes sense. Now, if you just want me to write, produce, and manage your Facebook ads for you and book qualified homeowners directly onto your calendar who are actually interested and serious about building a high-end outdoor living project, then you can book a call with me by clicking the link below. Hope this was useful. Goodbye.